All right, everybody. This is looking at thinking and what happens when we think, and kind of the elements that make up our thinking. Because again, when we think about thinking, we usually think about what do you think of this? What do you think of this movie? What do you think of this restaurant? What is the process to solve some sort of equation or something like that? And although yes, this is part of thinking, there's a bit more to it than that. So this does tie directly into memory, which we talked about previously, and talks and ties into kind of the next thing we'll look at, which is creativity. So what is creativity? Where does it come from? And all that other good stuff. So this is the textbook definition of thinking. Changing or reorganizing the information that is stored in our memory to create new and transformed information. So to put that in short, the information that's stored in your memory, the color, what colors are, what is a pencil, how do you solve for pi, all of these different bits of information that is stored in your memory. When you think, what you're doing is you're taking all that information and changing it and reorganizing it. So you're kind of taking something that may apply to one thing and maybe applying it to something else. So, like for example, learning the area of a square. Simple equation: base times width, or length times width, or however you want to describe it. Solving the area of a floor in your bedroom because you want to rip out the carpet and put in hardwood floor or something. Well, how much wood do you need? Same basic idea, finding the area of a square. Use that same information. So you're taking that idea, changing it, reorganizing it a little bit, reworking it so you can apply it to something else. And again, that is ultimately what thinking is. Now, as far as some of the elements that make up thinking, this is perhaps the most basic, the image. Now, an image is a visual mental representation of a specific event or object. So, for a car, your image may be a little different than what is shown on the PowerPoint. So, these are visual, they're mental representation. They represent not just the object, but kind of all objects that are like that. And we'll kind of get around to this. We'll kind of circle back around to this at the end because this actually can stand in for something else as well. But the minute you have an image, you can then move on to have a symbol. So this could be a sound, an object, or a design, an image that can represent a specific object or event. So, like for example, all of these that you see are symbols. A red octagon. Now, it may not say the word stop, but you know that means stop, especially if you're driving. You you see the new power button ish thing, the circle with the line. You see the green lights. You see the symbol for Xbox. These are more than just images in and of themselves, but these are images that hold a certain meaning to it. So you start off with an image, and then from there you can establish a meaning to it, a classical conditioning. And where the image is more than just the image itself. There's kind of extra baggage tacked along to it. And then once you can start having symbols, then you can start having concepts. And this is kind of the next step in its kind of sophistication. So objects that share a common attribute. So they all have something in common. So you see a bunch of clowns. There are hobo clowns that are sad, hobo clowns that are happy. You have like a McDonald's looking clown, you got a cartoon clown, you got a serial killer clown, you got old clowns, relatively new clowns, painted clowns, photo clowns, animated clowns. But in the end, they're all clowns. They all hold something that ties them all together. or multiple things that tie them all together. The face paint, the hair color, the red noses, all of these things pretty much come together to create the basic concept. Now, what happens is you have all of these kinds of concepts. So, again, when you think of clown, you don't think of all the different possibilities of clown. That's a lot of work for our brain. Instead, what happens is when I say the word clown, or I say the word car, or I say the word cat, cow, pencil, pen, man, woman, child, something specific is going to pop up into your mind. And this is what we call the prototype. And what happens is the prototype is an image that represents the concept. So what happens is we walk around with all these prototypes. Prototype for, again, car, clown, cow, cat, dog, man, woman, chair. We walk around with all these prototypes. And what we do is when we interact with the world, we know we can make the connection that this chair and this chair, although they may be different, they're both still chairs. This table, although they're different, they're both tables. Boy, 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 boy. They're all different. They can be black, white, short, tall, fat, skinny. But we all know they're boys because there's certain characteristics that tie them all together. But when you think of it, like, again, when I say anything, cat, dog, whatever, an image will show up in my mind, a different image will show up in your mind because you have ultimately are operating from a different prototype. And again, it doesn't have to be specific, but this is something that serves as a representation of a concept. So often these are usually things we've already seen. Maybe it's your favorite car. It's your favorite food. It's your favorite pencil. And yeah, so often these are things that are usually already seen. Now, what they can also be, and this may be something we've seen before, or something we've seen before that ties into it, a prototype can also be our ideal, like your favorite car, that car that you want when you have more money than common sense. That could be your prototype. Your ideal man or woman, if you're looking for a mate, that can be your prototype. So what happens is when you go off and say you're a guy, you're trying to find a girlfriend. You walk around with your prototype for what the ideal girl should be. And what you do is you compare your prototype to all the options that are available. And while you're doing that, you go, okay, well, I like her. I don't like her. Same thing with a girl. You're going off, you're trying to find, that ideal guy. You have that prototype as well. And you're going off and you're going, okay, well, he's cute. He's not cute. He scares me. Why is he eating paste? So, but again, this is ultimately kind of how even like a prototype can actually influence how we think and how we perceive things. Some people are very, their ideal gaming console is the PlayStation. That's their ideal, or their PC, or their Xbox. So you have the fanboy wars as a result of that. So again, this is why, prototypes, this is ultimately kind of what happens with all of our images and symbols and stuff like that. So once you get the prototype, well, then you can start having rules. You can start having a statement that can relate to the concept. So for example, clowns wear funny shoes. They wear red noses. They wear makeup. Boys don't wear dresses. Girls wear dresses. You write with your right hand. So you have all these different kinds of rules that exist that help us interpret the world. Again, clowns wear funny shoes. You stop at stoplights. You close your eyes to make the bad things go away. You enter an elevator, you turn around and look out the door. You don't just walk in and stare at the back wall. When you get into a line, you get into the line at the end of the line. You don't jump at the very beginning or just jump in the middle. You go to the end of the line. You hold a pencil to write with the lead, not write with the eraser. These are all these different rules that help us govern how to operate in this world. You drive on the right side of the road. You don't drive on the left side of the road because there's a rule. The rule that says if you drive on the left side of the road, you're probably going to die. But again, these are all these different rules that help us operate within the world. And then you have metacognition. This is where you think about thinking. Can't figure out a math problem, so you think about the process. You're trying to figure out why you're upset about something. And you go, okay, well, what am I thinking that makes me upset? What am I thinking that makes me depressed? What am I thinking that says, sure, it's a good thing to sit around and shoot up a bunch of heroin? Why is it not good to sit around and think about how much fun to shoot up a bunch of heroin? So again, this is where you stop and you really begin to, you just think about the process. What's going on? You're trying to brainstorm, come up with an idea for something. You want to figure out, okay, well, how can I rearrange my room? Why would this arrangement work better than the old arrangement? So the reason for all this is because all of these different images and prototypes and rules and everything else, they serve as our building blocks to what we call our schemas. And what a schema is, it's pretty much a shortcut for us to understand the world around us. Okay? Because again, when you are, like right now, it's very common for us to wear doff medical mask because of the coof. So our schemas are now saying, because of everybody else in society and everything else, we need to wear these. We have to wear our medical masks. If somebody is walking down the road, down the hallway in Walmart, and they're not wearing their medical mask, that will naturally draw your attention. If you are, again, just the basic things in life, we don't drive down the left side of the road. We don't crawl to our next class. We walk. We don't drink from a soda bottle, those 20 ounces of sodas. We don't drink from those by biting the bottom. We unscrew the top. That's what I mean by understanding the world, like how things operate within the world, and the rules by how we kind of use objects in the world and how we interact with each other in the world. You see somebody crying, you're not going to walk up to them and be like, hey, you're having a good day, unless you're being sarcastic. But that's really kind of for another day. Now, this is also kind of where creativity will kind of start. So once you have all these different rules and schemas, and the more information you know, the more you can think about things, the more you can be creative. And that'll be something we more dabble in tomorrow, as far as, what is creativity and what causes that, because that kind of has its own kind of, what's the word? It has its own kind of intricacies that are involved with it. But to kind of wrap up thinking, there's overall two basic ways of thinking. So you have all these symbols and images and everything else. Well, what happens is you can think about them convergently or divergently. So a directed convergent thinking is systemic and logical, and your goal is to reach a specific goal or answer. This is there is a right answer to it. Like your math class, 2 + 2 is 4. 3 × 3 is 9. Pi r squared is whatever pi r squared is. But, how do you fix an engine? How do you make, chicken cordon bleu or something? There's directed, it's logical, it's systemic. There is a right answer. Non-directional, this is kind of free flow. This is no particular plan. This is kind of exploring the possibilities. Directed thinking relies a lot on your left hemisphere. Your right thinking, or your right hemisphere, directs a lot of your divergent thinking. And And what happens is you can have directed thinking, which is deliberate and purposeful. You formulate, follow new rules. You set work to, you set and you work towards achieving your goals. So this is where, okay, there's a goal that you want to have. You want to graduate high school. You want to graduate college. You want to be a surgeon. You want to be a rocket scientist. You want to be whatever. You want to build a house. You want to clean your room. Directed thinking is the part of you that goes, okay, this is how I achieve it. Your non-directed thinking is kind of the more rich and imagery and more feelings are involved. This is the realm of daydreams. This is kind of where you explore beyond kind of what you know. So, like for example, let's say like right now, very, very true right now. Most schools right now, and even me, I am straddling the line between my students who are in person, students who are still virtual. So what I have to do is this is new and uncharted territory for me. It is, and it's new and uncharted territory for most teachers still. So what I have to do as an individual, as a professional, and all the other good stuff is I actually have to sit and kind of daydream about how I'm going to do this. And in fairness, I still haven't quite figured it out yet because I'm still very much in that non-directed way. Now I come up with a rough idea, and then I switch from my non-directed thinking where it's like, ooh, that would be a good idea. Why don't I try this? And then my directed thinking was like, okay, well, let's plan this out. Let's actually work through the problem. And yeah, sometimes I've seen my plans blow up. I've seen my plans work out well, but it just depends. So what happens is you switch back and forth. Your non-directed thinking will say, hey, why don't we try this? Your directed thinking will then take over and go, okay, well, how would I do this? You decide you want to write a novel one day, or you want to write a song. Hey, here's a nice little sound to kind of go with it, or here's kind of the first line, or here's what the story could be about. And your directed thinking goes, okay, well, let's actually build this into something. Let's take that small little da 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 for a song and actually make a song. Let's take the idea of a magical notebook that kills people when you write people's name inside of it. Let's actually make a story out of that. That'd be Death Note, by the way. But the anime and the manga, not the crappy American version on Netflix. But we switch back and forth between these two things. And yeah, that's about it as far as this goes. Next time we'll kind of dabble more in kind of the creativity side of it. Because again, the idea is we have our memories. This informs our thinking. From our thinking, this can actually inform our creativity, which can range from actually creating something new and interesting, or even how we interpret the world in a new and interesting way. And I'll leave it there for now. And I will see you next time. I'm out.